Hey, what's up, everyone? Sam Shaw from Wall Street Mastermind here. I'm back today with another client interview for you guys. Today, I have David with me. David joined the program actually almost 2 months ago, exactly 2 months ago from today, back in early May. And he's a recent college grad, and he was able to recently just secure an investment banking offer. And so I just wanted to get him to come on here and talk about his whole recruiting experience, and just impart some knowledge on you guys on how his process went, and maybe things that he felt like went well and things that he felt like could have gone better. And hopefully you guys get some takeaways from this that will help you with your own process as well. So David, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on here and talk to us today.
Hey Sam, thanks for having me. Glad we can catch up and yeah, just debrief.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I know I just gave a very brief intro just now, but if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, maybe tell people a little bit about your background, whatever you're comfortable sharing, and just give them like a little bit of context on kind of like your recruiting situation coming in. I think that would just like help people level set.
Yeah, definitely. So I went to a non-target in Boston. Didn't know I wanted to do banking pretty much until senior year. Fortunately, I had pretty good internship experiences, one in wealth management, another in asset management. I wanted to do something in that area and was actually pretty set on wanting to pursue the CFA. But after talking to some older friends, mentor figures in my life, and doing more extensive research on my end, figured banking would be a more just fitting and valuable experience for me. But obviously, timing wasn't in my favor since I didn't recruit for a summer analyst position, so I knew it was going to be a grind, and it was definitely a grind.
Got it. So originally you thought you wanted to do asset management, you said?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then you decided on investment banking, well, at some point during senior year?
Yeah, I'd say I was pretty much set by September of senior year, but even then, that was pretty late.
Right, because you didn't do a investment banking internship for your junior summer.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that for full time, they like to hire pretty much after the summer hours rule ends as well.
Got it. Okay, so then you pivoted in September of senior year, and then you just started trying to recruit with whatever banks you could find, basically. Like, how was that? How was that process?
Yeah, at first it was definitely a bit messy because I didn't really have a focused strategy in terms of how to tackle this as efficiently as possible. Was I was definitely crunching on the guides, speaking to as many people as I could, and was able to do a few interviews later that fall. But um, I think it was pretty evident that I wasn't as prepared as I could have been in order to ace that offer. And so it was a bit of a struggle of having to just crunch those guides daily, networking, and also finding time to make sure I get my schoolwork done, hang out with friends, and hopefully do interviews as they arise.
Got so I guess like how much? Because you started the process in September.
Hmm.
You came to us in May, so that's probably you probably tried on your own for about what 8 months or so, probably, right?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. Um, and so like during that time, like how much time? I don't know if you know this, but if you had to ballpark, like how much time would you say you spent, whether it's crunching on the guides or like just reaching out to people for networking and having conversations? Like roughly how many conversations did you have? And then like give us a sense of like the magnitude or the amount of work that you had to do.
Yeah, definitely. So I think networking probably took the most time, because, of course, there are people within my direct circle, and just as I kept going to the next degree in terms of my connections, it required me to reach out to even more people because obviously not everyone's going to respond to my emails. So I'd say for each day to take into consideration networking and studying the guides, probably spend um, probably 3 hours a day, probably 2 hours just looking at LinkedIn profiles, reaching out to alums, just trying to do my diligence on firms that I could even reach out to, and the next hour on brushing up on the guides. And because I was just trying to memorize them, I felt like it was pretty iterative, where I had to keep going back to what I studied maybe like 2 weeks before because I didn't fully understand the concepts as thoroughly as I should have.
I see. So you have to keep going back and repeating the same sections that you already supposedly studied.
Yeah, there were a few areas that I had to brush up on again, and
Got
so it wasn't as smooth as it could have been.
Got it. So consistently, you're doing roughly like 3 hours a day just on recruiting, and that's like every day of the week for those 8 months, or
Uh, I'd say I'd say probably um, f consistently throughout those 8 months, 4 or 5 out of the days of the week,
wow.
and those 3 hours, it it wasn't always like 2 hours networking, 1 hours of studying the guides. It definitely fluctuated, but I allocated about 3 hours a day.
Right, right. So that's like 12 to 15 hours a week on your.
Yeah,
It's like a part-time job, basically.
yeah, on top of schoolwork and my part-time job.
Okay. And you did that, and you did that for 8 months. So you literally spent, if I do the math correctly, like if it's, let's call it 15 hours times 15 hours a week times about 8 months. So almost like 500 hours of work.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely tough because I missed the two biggest recruiting cycles. So
Right.
it was a grind.
Right. Okay. So you're definitely a hard worker. It wasn't for like, it wasn't like it's not like you were being lazy, or it wasn't for lack of trying. How many interviews did you get during that time?
Uh, Prior to speaking with you, I want to say five.
Okay. Got it. You got 5 interviews. Okay. But none of them panned out.
No, so three of them where I thought would be an initial, networking phone call, but they were pretty much first rounds, and then got dinged there, and then two of them I did advance no further along the stage.
Mhm. Okay. But you got to like the super day or something, but just didn't get the offer.
Yeah, I did one super day, and then I got dinged on the other one before the super day.
Got it. Okay. So I guess like what what resources were you using during those 8 months? Like you mentioned the guides. Is that just like breaking Wall Street guides, Wall Street
Yeah.
Oasis guides? What were you using?
Yeah, I was using the Breaking into Wall Street guides. I also had some friends who were who are working in the industry kind of tell me on the main topics I should know, and they did mention like just some popular questions like in the past, but I also looked into Google Glassdoor and just there was felt like the preparation process was pretty much endless because there's just so much information out there. But the thing is, there's no guarantee that those topics might even come up. So that's what I was talking about too. About I felt like there was a lack of focus and strategy in terms of tackling the recruiting as efficiently as possible.
Got it. Got it. Okay, makes sense. And then so like At what point did you discover Wall Street Mastermind? Like, I mean, I know you joined in May, but I think you probably found out about us prior to that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I ended up finding about the program that summer and just took it like a grain of salt because I never heard about it before.
This is your junior summer, basically.
Yeah, that's when I just first found out about the Facebook group. Didn't really look into it that much. Just thought, okay, this is something that's out there. Definitely um, thought it was a scam at first, just to be transparent. And yeah,
You're not the first person that said that in one of these interviews. So,
okay. Yeah, I felt like I didn't. There was no need for me to be even spend time looking into it because I felt like I had everything that I needed for the whole preparation process. So I didn't look into it until maybe a month before I reached out to you.
what finally kind of caused you to have a change of heart and say, "Hey, maybe I should look deeper into what this is all about"?
Yeah, I think I just got to a point where I knew I had to do something different to accelerate my process, given my position. If I was, truly serious about wanting to do banking, um, and I felt like at that point, I just spent so much time, um, effort, energy into it that I really wanted to, go all in on it, and um, yeah, I mean, I felt like even though I felt like I kind of had everything I needed after joining, I was definitely proved wrong. Overall, I found out there were some things that I was doing right, but there were also tweaks that needed to be made, which is more than enough for interviewers to decide who gets the offer. Because at least based on my experience and what other friends have told me, you need to be pretty spot on with everything if you want to get that offer.
Hmm. Hmm. So I want to spend a bit of time on this. So, because like this is a pretty common thing, like the thing that you felt where, hey, initially you thought it was a scam, and then like later on you came back, and then you changed your mind and you decided to obviously hop into the program. But what caused you to be skeptical initially, and then like what helped you kind of change your mind and say, you know what, actually like this seems legit and I can trust this program. Like, was there like a switch that just flipped at some point when something happened, or you saw something, or what was the turning point?
Yeah, I mean, I I saw the stats and the firms that previous clients have gone to, and um, I mean, I still was extremely skeptical even after that. And like I
Almost
mentioned,
seems like too good to be true, basically.
um, well, I guess we can say that, but just also, I felt like, yeah, like I mentioned before, I haven't heard of the program before, wasn't convinced how much of a difference it could make because I felt like I had everything I needed. And so, um, yeah, I think that was the biggest deterrent for me. But um, yeah, I think time was definitely of the essence, and there was definitely an urgency on my end to figure out something that I can do to maybe even be a bit creative, do something um, that not a lot of people are doing. And after we spoke on the phone, I still have my doubts, to be transparent, but I felt like this is something that could work out, for the better. And like I mentioned, I felt like there's no turning back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember you were definitely even after we spoke, you were I think you were still kind of hesitant and on the fence a little bit, but eventually you got off the fence. But it sounds like what you're saying is just I think the biggest thing is because the way we do things, the way our program is designed is so different and so unique. Like you haven't really heard of anyone doing something like this before, right? And like even as of the time of this recording, we've only worked with um, like less than 200 students in total since our company was founded, right? So it's like a very small group of people, and so
Mhm.
you don't personally know anyone that's done this, uh,
Exactly.
and that combined with like as human beings, like typically we don't like to be the first person to try something new because you don't know if it's going to work or not, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like where a lot of the skepticism comes from for most people is that, well, this is so new, this is just such a new concept, new idea to me, like nowhere else can you find a program where you'll have like a banker, like basically if I had to describe it, it's like have a banker personally tutor you through every single aspect of the banking recruiting process, essentially, right? Like nobody else is doing that, right? So everybody's used to just, oh, let me just, get an interview guide and memorize all the answers to these questions, or let me buy a financial modeling course and watch hours and hours of this guy moving around on screen in a spreadsheet. Like that's what everyone has been conditioned to do, pretty much, right? So it's like sometimes when something is so different, it might be a little bit scary to jump in, but then it's like if you actually jump in, and it actually works, you're like, holy crap, this is like it's almost like a secret that nobody knows about. But that's also why it's kind of like a competitive advantage, right? Because other people don't have this type of support.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you hit on the nail. I haven't heard about it from any of my friends or any just anyone in general. And I think that itself caused a lot of doubt in my mind because it was new. I didn't know if just how proven the program was. But after going through it, like you mentioned, having a former banker who was part of the campus recruiting team just on my corner 100% of the time because you're you know you're spending you know each day like you're solely dedicated in helping my recruitment process, and I thought that was really invaluable, helped me to really navigate my process with more focus. Felt like the training modules, um, yeah, I mean, it helped me learn it as fast as possible. It was very informative. You taught pretty efficiently, and I also did get to draft and get my story and behavioral answers, vetted. And looking back on my before and after versions, I think it's pretty amazing just how much more vivid and well knit my responses are now.
Mm, got it. So what would you say? Like, because you mentioned earlier, like, hey, I thought I had everything I needed, right? But then once you joined, you found out you were wrong because there were a lot of tweaks that you needed to make to actually get the offer. Um, what were some of these tweaks, or like, what did you actually do with Wall Street Mastermind that was so different than what you could have done on your own? Because I think a lot of people have that same question where they feel like, hey, well, I already have everything I need. I have Google, I have these guides that my friends gave me, I have all the information already, right? Like, what did you actually learn in this program that was so different that you couldn't have gotten figured out on your own, or you couldn't have gotten elsewhere, or you couldn't have gotten from a guide?
Yeah, I mean, the guides, they are, good resources, but for me, I feel like it wasn't as helpful with really understanding the concepts, and that's something that the program has helped me to just be very comfortable with. Based on my interview experiences, I think interviewers know that everyone's trying to just cram in the guides, so I was asked a lot of variations to those um, to the questions in the guides, and if I didn't understand the concept, I think I would have gone one wrong eventually. And so I think having the program where I actually understand the concept, and being able to showcase that, and being confident going into the interview, knowing that I know the material, even if it's not on the guide, I will get it right, was something that I really appreciated. I think the biggest thing that, on top of that, that helped me was more of the strategy and soft skills, because being able to present your story and even present your answers are just so huge, especially in banking, where everyone's very, very competent It's extremely hard to get into. You have to stand out in order to get an offer. It's not good enough for you to just check the boxes.
Mm,
So I think this program helped me to understand what it takes to kind of differentiate and set myself apart from the rest of the crowd who are just as competent for the job.
got it. When you talk about the strategy and soft skills and talking about yourself and making yourself stand out, I guess that comes into play both during your networking processes and when you're talking to bankers and trying to get those referrals, but also, I guess, during the actual interview itself, like
Exactly.
answering behavioral questions. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
leave a lasting impression.
Yeah. And so the really interesting thing that you said was like you felt like after we vetted your behaviorals, the before and after is kind of like I think you said night and day, right? Um, I feel like a lot of times when we talk to students, and this is probably also the case with you when you were coming into this program, I'm guessing, is that you felt like you knew that you needed help with the technicals, but on the behavioral side, you probably felt pretty good or much better than you did on the technical side, right? You probably felt like, hey, my behaviors are fine. I know what I'm going to say, right? And then like you came in and it was kind of an eye opener just how much better your answers could still become. So
Hmm.
like, can you talk about that a little bit of like why does that happen so often? Like why is it that because you're not the only client that feels that way. Like most of our clients, they always come in feeling pretty good about their behaviorals.
Hmm.
And then afterwards they're like, whoa, actually, like I was leaving so much on the table.
Yeah, definitely. So, just to bring my experience here, I mean, at least I felt like with my interviews and with my previous networking conversations, like my responses were good enough to elicit a positive response, but I don't think that it was to the point where the other person is is just particularly impressed by me. And like I mentioned, everyone is very competent. For those recruiting, they're all very competent as well. So um, yeah, I think even though I felt pretty good about it, there weren't any major red flags. I think there are still ways to improve to go the extra mile to make sure that that the time you spend with those bankers, whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person during those interviews, you are leaving a lasting impression and just wanting them just have you just having them be excited to either have you advance along the process or even hopefully get you on board.
Yeah. So you felt a noticeable difference in terms of um, the number of bankers who were willing to refer you for interviews or even just your conversion rate in the interviews where you were able to advance to the next round, like you actually notice a difference before and after.
Yeah, I think definitely those conversations went a lot smoother, more consistently as well.
Got it. Okay. Cool. So I mean, so after you joined again, probably you worked with us for what, like a month to a month and a half before you got your offer? A month and a half, maybe.
Yeah, just 7 days a week, month and a half.
Yep. And I mean, by the time you joined, it was like right before you were going to graduate senior year, right? It was like early May, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, I was still fortunate that um, even even before I reached out to you, there were a few leads that were the possibilities, but the one that I eventually landed, it was after I joined the program, and there were actually other super days that I got to do after I joined the program.
Oh, okay. So how many interviews did you have during the time that you were working with us?
Well, I guess in terms of super days, was able to do three more, including the one that I got.
Wow. Okay. So the 8 months prior to Wall Street Mastermind, you got to one super day.
Yeah.
The 1.5 months with Wall Street Mastermind, you had three super days.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, I think the timing of where I was pretty good as well because it just recruiting up cycle, is difficult. It's extremely difficult, but I was fortunate that as I was preparing and really just putting my head down, soaking all the information in the program, I was ready when those opportunities arose.
Yep. And out of those 3 super days, how many offers did you get?
I got two.
Okay. You got 2 offers. And then
Yeah.
ultimately, um, like obviously you picked one of them, but like, can you just kind of describe at a high level what type of firm you're going to be going to?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to a tech-focused boutique in New York, which is very ideal for me because I wanted to be in New York to begin with, major banking environments and the team environment at the firm. I mean, I loved everyone that I spoke with. Felt like conversation was very organic, was very personable as well, um, and the firm is pretty well respected in the tech space. So really excited all about the whole opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, and even though they're like a slightly smaller firm, but seems like they pay pretty well too. Like they pay pretty much in line with street, right?
Yep. Yeah, pretty much.
So you must be pretty happy about
Yep, definitely.
that. Awesome, man. Well, look, obviously, great accomplishment. Um, Nothing feels better than grinding on something for an entire year to finally see it paid off, like just in the nick of time, right? Do you have any last words of advice for our listeners that are listening right now?
Yeah, so I mean, my situation was a bit different since I found out so late. I started just being serious about recruiting for banking in September. But I mean, if I could go back in time, I mean, I would sign up for the program earlier so I could recruit for a summer analyst role. That's the pipeline to full time. And I think from what I've heard, 90 to 95% of the full time roles are secured through summer analysts. So that's something I would definitely do. Program saved me a ton of time, and had I gone through it earlier, probably could have went on more trips, not stressed about job searching during my senior year. But I mean, if there are people trying to recruit senior year, I mean, time and opportunity, I'd say, are much more limited. So having a streamlined program like this, I think, will be doing yourself in a really good favor.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point, which is, for people that are maybe in a similar boat as you, where maybe they start too late. Sometimes we talk to students that are starting senior year and they didn't have an opportunity to do a summer internship. It's even more important to be able to accelerate the process as much as possible because like if you wait too long, like sometimes there's basically fewer and fewer opportunities the longer you wait, right?
Yeah, exactly. Each one is just so precious too, so definitely don't want any of them to slip away.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, look, guys. Hopefully, you guys found this interview with David helpful. If you're in a similar situation as him, maybe you started the process late, and you're playing catch up, and you don't have, a summer internship in banking, and you're still trying to break in, or maybe you're not like David, and you're starting early, which is even better. If you want like the most efficient and most effective way to go through the investment banking recruiting process, if you want to like maximize the chances of you getting into the best firm you could possibly get into, then I want to encourage you guys to just schedule a free strategy session with our team. You can do so by going to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street is abbreviated to ST. So again, it's www.wallstmastermind.com/apply. And on this call, we basically will just hop on with you. Someone on our team will hop on. We're going to talk to you, get to know you a bit, learn more about your situation, what it is that you're struggling with, and what you feel like you need help with. And then based on your situation and whatever your goals are, if we feel like we can help you get there, then we're happy to discuss what that might look like. But even if not, we'll still do our best to just give you advice on what we think you should do. Okay, so like I said, we've helped almost, as of the date of this recording, we've helped almost 200 clients. We have an extremely high success rate that's currently about 94% for people who actually successfully like who actually go through the program, do all the work, and they're done with the recruiting process is about 94% of people that actually break into banking, right? So you're not going to find anything out there that's going to give you a better shot at banking than you would find here. And the support, as Matt, sorry, as David has attested to, is unparalleled, right? And so that's pretty much it. So again, thank you guys for tuning in and listening, and we look forward to speaking with you. All right, and thanks, David, for taking the time today to speak with us. Again, we appreciate you coming on, and congrats again on the success. And definitely don't be a stranger, and let's keep in touch and keep me posted on how everything goes at your new job.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, Sam. Appreciate all
Awesome.
your guidance here.
No, awesome. Thank you.